Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction and recovery. Join your hosts,
the Podfather, Jersey Ed,
Miss Meg,
as they break the silence and speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with
Jersey Ed from Quarantine Garage City, I guess,
Yep,
over
and
here in Langhorne, Pennsylvania.
California Cow.
Yep, Carl D. From
Carl.
California, just hanging out with the Friends in Recovery.
And our producer
Right.
extraordinaire,
Sweets in the background,
In the
making sure that
background.
everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. I keep you guys online.
Doing
Like
his great impersonation of Wilson from
Wilson.
Full
Yes.
Time.
I carry around a little fence on a stick.
That's
So
right.
you can only see the top half of my
That's right.
face.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Is it
Yeah.
just like this? Is this
Exactly.
what
That's
this
it
is?
right there.
That's it.
There
That's
is.
it.
How you guys doing?
You two could be related.
Hey,
And I
did-
just learned today that gentleman's name was Wilson.
Wilson on
I
the
just-
show.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I didn't
Yep.
know that.
That's
So.
the name. That's
Crazy.
his name on the show, Wilson.
Yep.
So,
They just
guys,
got lazy.
I got Carl on, and I think he's going to be our new Meg. I hired him. Okay, guys.
Well,
hold on,
hold on.
I got news for you, Ed. I don't think so.
So first of all,
I did the opposite direction. Yeah.
So I heard that, and I got to tell you. So I watch Family Guy, okay,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know if anyone watches
Oh,
Family Guy, but
Hell yeah.
Meg is kind of like the butt of the family,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. So are we talking about Miss Meg?
Yeah, Miss Meg.
I'm sorry,
For our
Miss Meg,
listeners,
yes.
our new listeners who don't know what's happening here, you know what I mean? They may not know who Miss Meg is. This is not a bad thing. This is a
No,
good
it's a
thing.
good thing.
Carl's going to come in and he's going to supplement an amazing co-host that used to exist on this podcast,
Just
and he
said
has huge pumps to fill.
that. Oh, you're cutting out.
That's
I got
right.
huge what? What did you say?
Oh,
Pumps to
Oh,
fill.
sorry, you cut out there. You
Oh
cut out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Pumps. Pumps. Let's see those pumps, Carl.
Pumps.
I told you, I haven't put pants on in 3 months, man. With this COVID thing, really.
God.
You don't want to see it.
Well, I was looking forward to this interview with Carl, and I think we just decided just to go run with it. We don't really have a topic. We're just here just to talk about recovery. Carl is from SoberPod, a wonderful show that that all of us listen to. I listen to it religiously every week, and Carl's become a great friend of the show and a good friend of mine too. And Carl, welcome. Thank you for just stepping up and doing it for us.
Thank you guys for having me. I mean, this is like this is the highlight of my week, right? I got all nervous.
Oh God.
I put my shirt on, I got dressed. I even, I haven't shaved, but I did trim it. You know what I mean? So,
Don't shave on our account.
That's
Has
right.
Ed,
yeah, I
did,
wasn't
Ed,
going to.
did Ed show you his SoberPod tattoo yet? He hasn't, has he?
Yeah.
That was good, tweets. That's right. Good God. So, Carl, if everybody's probably wondering what SoberPod is and all that, why don't you tell them a little bit about what SoberPod is? And
Yeah,
Good.
SoberPod is a podcast. Really, I guess I came up with the tagline. SoberPod is it's just a podcast dedicated to the idea that one addict, is best served by helping another addict or alcoholic. Right? It's very traditional in terms of our approach and how we operate. We're very open and we're fairly traditional. Actually, we covered the 12 steps in 2019. So if you're really looking for that traditional, 12-step recovery, but one of the ideas that kind of came out of this thing is just getting together. Steve, who is another co-host, he was my first sponsor. And then he was an atheist, and so he actually worked the 12 steps as an atheist. I was atheist when I started. That's kind of why I picked him, I think. And then and actually, funny, it's like through the steps, I really became what I like to call agnostically inclined, right? But I definitely participate with the steps with a higher power. I learned to find that through working the steps. But then also Ellen, who is a believer, right? So she's really more of the Christian. So it really kind of worked itself out that we are, we have there's three of us. Oh, actually, we just added Chelsea, which, I don't really really know her angle. Maybe she is more of a believer, but either way, we just added a fourth member, Chelsea. So we're trying to get her more involved. Because of this COVID, we ended up having that relationship, and she was on Twitter and this kind of stuff. So Chelsea's also on there as well. But we started out with just the three of us. It really started out with me originally trying to get my buddy on. I was the idea is that he had like 12 days of sobriety, and he didn't want to go to AA, right? He didn't want to do the traditional route. And I was like, well, great, you don't want to do the traditional route. I said, but you know what? Let's try to be accountable to each other, right? Like, let's just do that. And then I'll tell you what I said, you go out every week and find something different that you want to participate in with recovery. I don't care if it was Refuge or SMART or AA or, I don't know, digging ditches, whatever you feel like is doing, for your recovery, go do that. And then come back on the show and we'll talk about it every week, and that's really where it was at. And so he stayed sober for about 29 days. And then he called me up. We were about ready to do the fourth episode, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I can understand why, but I talked to him, but you know what, here's the thing, looking back on it, he's now sober. I think he'd probably be coming up on a year now.
Wow,
and so we still keep touching all that good stuff. So I look forward to having him on the show. I think he's part of the story about SoberPod, about why it was created, and and really why we continue to do it. It's really for the new guy, for the newcomer, and just to be there, like you said, Ed. It's like something you were listening to every week, and that's been a real thing for us. Is we want to make sure, just like you guys, put out new content every week, and really be there when nobody else can be, right? It's that kind of an idea. I always have this image in my head of Mike in Nova Scotia. I always talk about the Mike in Nova Scotia. And so that's who I do it for, is that guy who's like stuck in some cabin somewhere, who's gonna go hike another 5 miles to go get a drink, and maybe we're an option instead of that.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's how it works.
Absolutely.
I like the analogy. I really think with this COVID virus, what's going on, I'm sure you'd agree, Carl, that there's a lot of people that just can't make meetings now because they're out here in Massachusetts. There aren't any. I mean, they're just not. They're shut down. So everyone's doing it, via Zoom, and I think it's something going forward that's going to be very, very useful, not just to people in recovery, but people in the medical field. I work with 4 women in my office that are all therapists, licensed social workers. They have tons of clients, and they've been doing telemed and DoxyMe and all those different sites. But I think going forward, as society moves forward, this is going to be definitely part of the repertoire for people getting the message.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is this platform is just amazing. Like Podfather was saying, you said, Mike in Nova Scotia, for that person who may not want to participate in stuff like this, they can listen. Your shows last year with all the steps were amazing. It was just simply amazing that you guys took each step each month and really broke it down, and each week you had to do something on step 1, 2, so on and so forth, and that takes a lot of work, a lot of preparation to really
I don't think people really understand that's what it takes, because it really does, like, you have to cover at least 4 topics on the month, right?
Sure.
So of whatever each individual step. But at the time too, we were being pretty going for it. We were doing like individual episodes in the middle of the week for that stuff too. So each one of us was taking turns to kind of cover our own perspective of it. And so then we were ending up doing, 2 or 3 episodes a week. And it kind of wore on me, because I'm the one that does all the editing and all that stuff.
Right,
but we could talk about that later. Right?
Should talk to Sweets about that.
I feel your pain, Carl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a big part of it, is the idea that when we went into it, we were like, great, like we'll cover the 12 steps. But here's the best part is I got something out of that. You know what I mean?
I bet you did. Yeah.
I totally did. And, I had to really lean into it. I had to work with Steve and Ellen to do those things when we were talking about it. And at times the microphones disappeared, and all you got was just us, just absolutely like talking to each other. And I'll tell you, it changed me to go through that whole process like that. So that year was a wonderful experience. It really was.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
I found that, like, when we have when we did the just any of the episodes where we're just talking, exactly what Carl just said, like, these microphones disappear and I'm not thinking about an audience so much as I am just talking to you guys, right?
Mhm.
And I like the idea of the mic in Nova Scotia, the quotes, the mic in Nova Scotia, that maybe he does have a 5-mile walk to get to wherever the next drink is, but during those 5 miles he's got his earpods in and he's listening. And at some point throughout the episode, maybe he just hears a little bit of a conversation that isn't really directed toward anyone, but he hears it and he feels like he's part of the conversation and he feels like he's getting something out of it, and he decides to turn around and walk home instead. And that I love that, because some of the best podcasts that I've ever listened to, and I don't listen to a lot, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, I edit a lot of podcasts, but I don't listen to them a lot. I just listen to the stuff you guys tell me to listen to, so I edit it right. But some of the best podcasts that I've ever listened to were just, it sounded like guys sitting in a room, they were burping, they were farting, they were opening cans of soda. You know what I mean? Nobody really cared about.
Sweets, I love the way you say farting.
Farting, farting,
It's farting.
Yeah, burping and farting. There's no R in there. There's no R.
Farting.
But
Totally
they,
farting.
they didn't care that we heard that they were just in a room, fucking around.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, I felt like I was just listening to people talk. And that drew me in. And
the first time I listened to SoberPod, Ed had mentioned it, and he said, "You got to listen to this. These guys are great," and then so I listened to it, and it was a very comfortable. I'm not listening to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Oz once in a while. I don't even listen to Oz that much because I feel like I'm always going from one place to another. But
most great actors don't watch their own movies.
Yeah.
But I got to say, it drew me in right away. And then when we got together on that Saturday, and there was so many yucks and laughs, and it was just great. I can't tell you how good it is. And it's, here we are, two sides of the continent, East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah. And I see a lot of similarities in what you guys do too. I think part of my job on the podcast really is about being the relief, right?
Right.
It's like I was a really good class clown when I was growing up. It was part of my, but I actually strove for it every year. Like I would go for it pretty hard, right? Yeah. I mean, one year I remember I was like, ooh, I think I was slipping, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to eat some crayons right now. I'm just gonna go for it. So that's kind of part of what I do on the podcast. Is I think one of the things I have is every once in a while they'll call me like hippie counselor Carl, kind of a thing, because I do. I care a lot about people. I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Sure.
I let that stuff kind of fly out there, and I learned to do that in recovery.
Yeah.
And before recovery, I sat on my couch bitter and depressed, and shitting my pants. I was shitting blood. I was I was doing all those things that you just kind of you definitely don't want to be doing.
Right. No.
And so now that I walk into the world, and doing this stuff, like this is the opportunity to share and be loved and love, and
That's right.
do all those things with just general people. So I really love doing this shit. This
me
is
too.
where it's at.
I like these kind of podcasts where we just talk. My favorite podcasts are, I'll be honest with you, is like no topic. We just wing it. No guests, because with the guests, you got to prepare, you got to talk, you got to figure out what's going on. You got to ask.
I don't want to tell my story ever again.
I know. It's crazy, but this just like Sweet said, it just flows and things just happen. I like those podcasts. Like Sweet said, it's just guys in the room or girls, people in the room just talking and being real, because being real gets some really good information out sometimes also, you know what I mean? And just by listening to your show and that show being real, I was like, God damn, man, those guys are good. I'm learning something from this. I don't even know I'm learning something from this. They're saying fuck, piss, wicked tuna, wicked boner. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm learning stuff.
Farting in the car.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Smell like a fart in the car.
Oh my God. Well,
That's awesome.
Real quick, we're gonna talk about the fart in the car after the break here, and I don't know what it has to do with recovery, but we're gonna take a quick break. Back to you, Podfather.
Friends in Recovery podcast. We'll be right back.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery Podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis House, for supporting this show, along with individuals in recovery and the people that love them. Friends in Recovery Community of Support holds events across the country sponsored by Genesis House in Palm Springs, Florida, Marlton, New Jersey, Newtown, Connecticut, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery Podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. And please be sure to do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. And now here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Friends Recovery Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles. I'm here with
Jersey Ed in Quarantineville in my garage.
Is that like an official place now? You keep fucking bringing up Quarantineville.
his own zip code.
Quarantineville,
No.
yes.
You're just coming from your house, dude.
Yeah.
You are voluntarily
Fucking
choosing.
mayor of Quarantineville. Is what
Damn.
You created your own
wine bag. Jeez.
town.
I did.
Jersey, yeah.
I know. I created my own town. Look, Carl got a Corvette behind him. Mike has a beautiful setting behind him. I got
I
the
love it.
garage. I got to make it look somewhat great, you know?
All right. We'll watch you. Next time you come back in, and I'm coming to you live from my house. I'm excited to be here. You know what I mean?
Everybody, Jersey Ed from my house.
Yeah, there you go.
Does it
There you
sound
go.
good?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it's Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week, I guess.
it?
Time.
You want a drum roll?
Hey, give me a drum roll. What the hell?
All right.
Go ahead.
You want some comedy horns?
Give me some comedy. Love
Comedy
it.
horns? Okay. All right. I got you. Bring 'em in.
Thank you. Well, my podcast pick of the week is, of course, SoberPod. We love SoberPod. Here on SoberPod, we are 3 flawed individuals. I love the beginning of it. But Carl, Steve, and Ellen, they talk just about anything, just what you're hearing now, where they talk about sobriety. They're real, and you can find SoberPod podcasts anywhere you get your podcast from, and on their website, SoberPod.com. And Carl, you might know a little bit about that podcast.
Oh yeah, I might know a little bit about that stuff.
But anyways, welcome back, everybody. Right before the break, we were talking about parking cars and farting. So, do you have anything on that?
Talk about fighting over.
It's not from New England, so he doesn't get it.
We fart. We fucking fart.
Listening to Jersey Ed try to say the words we use is like watching a bad movie about Boston.
It's like what?
Don't just stop using don't do it.
Well, okay, I'll stop and I'll turn the show over to Carl. Carl, you want to take my spot?
Yeah, definitely.
Listen,
I'm gonna start my stuff.
We're gonna vote you in.
I've been trying to get Carl to do like another podcast on the side, and he just keeps saying no for some reason. He says he's too busy. Go figure. He's taking care of himself.
We talk about doing one once a month, maybe, just to kind of fill it in. But this is hard work. This is not something that you take lightly. It's something that it does take a lot of involvement. And I think people kind of think you just get on and just do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen that way. So it's I think thousands of people start podcasts, but there's a lot of podcasts about recovery too. There's also I would like to mention there is a podcast on the East Coast called The SoberPod.
Really?
So they actually, they approached us probably like 2 years ago, and they were like, "Hey, we got the same name," and I'm like, "Well, we had it first."
Yeah, exactly.
So
You can't just throw the in front of it. Yeah. So we have the McDonald's now.
yeah, exactly. So we don't use the word the. We just use SoberPod. So go to SoberPod.com, obviously.
That's right.
But I tell you, since we did the 12 steps, we kind of ran out of material. So we actually started just doing really topic-based stuff. So this year we actually started to approach just individually what we all wanted to achieve in terms of our recovery, right? So it really moved on. We started talking about that, recovery, 2.0 kind of stuff, emotional sobriety, right?
Yeah.
So we really started to get in doing that stuff and really kind of trying to be more we talk about sobriety. So I think if somebody listened to the podcast, they would kind of go back and go, all right, this is where they started. Here's their 12-step stuff. But then also, what are they doing after that? Because, it talks about in AA, we know only a little, right? More will be revealed kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I think you guys do a lot of the same thing with Miss Meg as well, right? So she brings in a lot of different flavor of that too.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
this thing, it's funny. I started, pushing on, and one of the things I did is, my sponsor kept talking about my codependency, right, in the last, couple of years, and I was like, every time I hear, every time I have a struggle, he would always bring up, well, that's just your codependency, and I'd be like, fuck you, you motherfucker, and eat shit and die, you person saving my life, but no, he pointed me down the road to codependency, and I tell you, I read Codependent No More by Melody Beattie, and it really kind of pointed me in a direction of ACA actually. At the end, it gave me kind of a you should go to one of these two programs, right? And it talked about going to Al-Anon versus ACA, and I read the Al-Anon checklist, and I was like, each one of them, I'm like, nope, because I'd ask questions like, are you concerned with somebody else's drinking? I'm like, no, I don't give a shit about anybody else's drinking. I'm too fucking selfish for that shit. But I went and I turned the page, and it did the ACA, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics. Yep. If you guys don't know what that is, it was and then so it's adultchildren.org. And basically they have the 14 traits as soon as you land at the homepage, and it'll tell you about basically start marking it off, do you feel this way, do you do this, et cetera, et cetera. And I answered yes to every single one of those things, and I was just like, okay, what does that mean now? So I actually, before all this started, I went to one ACA meeting, and it was really, I tell you what, I knew I was home again, right? I had a second home. So, it's weird and wonderful where recovery could take you above and beyond just, if you're thinking about the 12 steps, you discover a lot about yourself in terms of work in that program that you then, if you follow the cues, if you continue to go forward, you'll find more about who you are. Right.
Absolutely.
And that's really where I'm at. So I've heard once before, the 12 steps will take you as far as you let them take you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where we kind of netted out. So this year we're all kind of chasing our own, our own individual, things, and we're reporting back in terms of the podcast.
Yeah.
So cool. It's been a real treat, to be honest. I've
absolutely
connected with a lot of different people, got a lot of different experiences, and I'm growing. I'm not going. You know what I mean? It definitely is a trip. So, what about you guys? Did you guys do the same type of journey? Do you guys have the same kind of experience?
I found for my own personal recovery, in the beginning, the first 5 years were, just getting sober and not worrying about anything really. I mean, I was just so fucked up. But the more educated I got, the more I started working with people and, just maturing as an adult, getting older in life. I just realized now that I look and I do step meetings, I facilitate one every Tuesday night, and I have for the last 2 years. And I love the steps, but what I've realized for myself is that drinking and drugging was such a small part of my life. I mean, it was big in the sense that I couldn't stop, but the mistakes I was making, the person I was, had something to do with it, I guess, but not all. It wasn't all booze and drugs. It was me as an individual. So the steps have really helped me be a better person, helped me just look at life differently, everything, and it's just amazing because I can read step 1 today and I can read it tomorrow and I'll still get something different out of it. I can read it 1,000 times, and every time I read it, I'll glean something out of it every step. So I think it's a book. We had talked about it on an earlier show. I think we just several days ago, we spoke about this on an earlier show about the steps and how important it is to understand that it's just not about the booze and drugs. It's really about a way of life,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's me. I don't know. What about you, Eddie?
No, Podfather, I always say, you got to live by the steps, and I always say the real world, how does the real world live not having these steps in their lives? How do they not go to somebody? How do they not come on a podcast and talk their problems out? And you know, this is very therapeutic for me. I'm telling you, when I was excited, number one, to have Carl as a guest today. I was looking forward to that. But I'm also excited when we do these podcasts, because I know this is a form of therapy for me. I know I hear Podfather talking all his 35 years of experience, Sweets with all his 15 years of experience in this. And I like to take this information in and grab it and run with it and make my life better, just like they do. And I surround myself with people just like you guys on here. And that's how I stay sober. I listen to SoberPod. I listen to a few other ones, not many. I'm not a huge
yeah, you better not
guy. I just make it sound like I do when I do my Jersey Ed podcast pick of the week. But the reason why I do the Jersey Ed podcast pick of the week, guys, is that we're blessed to have this voice. We're blessed to be able to get our word out there. And so are these people, all other people, all the 8,000 million podcasts out there. They have a good message, and you just can't listen to it all. But why not kind of tout somebody and bring them up to the surface?
I don't know, Jersey. There's some real shit ass podcasts.
Oh yeah,
out there.
Really,
I agree.
You know, and I tried to listen to a lot of them, because when I first got sober, I could do nothing but just suck down this information, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, like this, there was a clue out there of like what I needed, right? And so it's like, you know, you follow that journey, you follow the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's what I had to do. So I would listen, you know, one of the shows out there is Recovercast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark up in Michigan, I think. Yeah, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, that one really captivated me. You know, I paid the money, man. I was like, I want the 600 episodes to go back and listen to. And I'm lucky I did all that stuff, because I listened to every single one of those things while I was commuting that first year. You know,
Absolutely.
I needed that stuff.
Right.
I needed another voice in my head other than my own.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, absolutely.
Because this was going to kill me. You know.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sweets, what's your take on all this?
You know, I think the whole idea of getting well and, you know, using all the resources available is like, you know, the steps put you on a path, right? Like they put you on they put you in a new direction. Like my direction before was dark, and it was scary, and it was full of all types of just terrible pitfalls. Every time I turned around, it was just a bad path. And, you know, for me, the steps put me on a better path. But the steps alone can only take you so far, like we've said. I mean, it's like they put you on that path. They give you the tools that you need to keep moving forward, but you've got to find another purpose to move forward. And that's why I like these podcasts. That's why I like talking to people. And, you know, it's the steps gave me the ability to remove enough of the noise and chaos in my life to pay attention to my body's other needs, my mind's needs, my spirit's needs. And so I could go beyond that and add more things to my life. And I learn about the things that I can add by listening to other people and connecting and hearing how they did it and why it worked for them. And then I get, because there's no active chaos in my life, I can make a conscious decision to add those things and improve on myself. So I love the journey. Journey for recovery is just, it's the shit.
Well, you hit it, Sweets. The journey to recovery. There's no destination in this, and you know, the minute you think there's a destination, man, you're fucked. You know, and because you're gonna stop growing, you're gonna stop learning. And the minute you stop learning and growing, man, you're going backwards. You know, or staying stagnant. And you know, Carl, I like when you know, Carl and I talk off the air a lot, and Carl, you have a lot of good things to say, and I really feel proud that I can talk to somebody like you and understand. I don't care if you had 10 minutes of recovery or 100 years of recovery. I can always learn something from somebody. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've really learned in this time around in my trip through sobriety, because, you know, when I was 26 years old, you know, 25, 26, somewhere in there, you know, I picked up a drink, you know, and I didn't put it down for 15 years. You know, I had 5 years of sobriety at that point, and you know, I still don't know shit. But here's the thing: what I figured out this time around is it's just to really be out there, honest, just lay that shit out, just absolutely, just whatever, you know. Don't be so reserved, and, you know, check what's in my head all the time, you know. And if I'm feeling pain, I have to express it. And when you know, and, you know, shit, 2 nights ago I beat up a canister in my garage because I was absolutely out of balance and fucking frustrated. And I, and it's like, those are the times in the past where it's like, I've been able to call my sponsor, pick up the phone and talk to somebody before all that shit happens. And sometimes I don't make it to the phone. Right. But, the best that I can do is go to bed and say, you know what, I'll start over tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Put my head on the pillow. Then I've done my best. And that's absolutely it. So some days are just frustrating. And in these times, in the last fucking 3 months, I don't know about the last you guys, but man, this world is fucking, like you guys are talking about before. I was just watching like one of your recent episodes about watching news and, taking all that stuff in. And, that shit can really, it can get to you, and it has got to me. My work is changing, the world is changing around me. But I have to remember that when I step outside and I look around, there's nobody knocking down my door right now, right? I got to remember that stuff. So, as much as the world is going a little crazy and I see it on the news, that I'm safe right now, and I have to remember that stuff. So it's the brain can really take a beating when it comes to media and what you put into the filter that we have. So I'm like I say, wearing that stuff on my sleeve and being emotional about those things and letting that stuff hang out there and not being so concerned with other people think of me, and admitting to you guys and to God and everybody, I just beat up some canister in my garage.
Don't worry, we're not going to tell anybody.
Exactly.
But, before I used to hold those things in, and it really got to me, and it ate away at my brain. And today I don't have to do that. I'm so free. I don't have to do that shit anymore.
Absolutely.
So isn't that why we all do this? You know what I mean? Ed, Podfather, Carl. I mean, we all jump onto these podcasts so that we can talk, so that we can share our notes, and so that we can get ideas and figure out what's best for us. And I will say this, Carl, it was very nice to see you again.
Absolutely.
Nice to see you, Sweets.
I think
I was going to turn in my drawing picture, but I think I missed the deadline.
You did miss the deadline. That's fine.
Dang it.
Well, the trick is you already know what I look like. So
I was going to cheat a little bit.
But I'm going to let these guys wrap it up, and then I think we should make this a regular thing. I'd love to have Carl on more often.
Absolutely.
Because it's not about an interview. Like, we want to learn about SoberPod, but let's just shoot the shit.
And I need a place to stay when I go on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Ed's house. Ed's house.
Vice versa.
That's right.
Hey, I got to skedaddle, so I'm going to say
amen, brother.
Say bye for now.
All right.
Podfather, anyway. You guys want to keep chatting?
No, we can just let you take us out because you brought us in.
Carl, I got to tell you, it's great having you on the show. And
Thank you, Podfather.
Sweet.
Thank you, Podfather.
This is the Podfather and Friends in Recovery podcast. And stay sober, everybody.
Stay sober. That's it, Podfather. Thanks, Carl.
Latrice.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for supporting those on the path to recovery and for keeping this valuable resource free for our Friends in Recovery community. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. If you can't get enough of Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube.